There we are. Video game that I created, and there's links in the This one basically happens to be a character known as Scarlet. And come on. Ooh, bitrate. Gonna need to change that. Let's go 30, 25. Maybe that'll fix it. Okay. I'll use that bitrate. To your bitrate of 25 kilobytes per second. Just be safe, I might see if 35 works. Huh. Oh wait, there we go. So yeah, welcome to Random Draw Time. I'm Miri, and I'll be working on this character right here. This is Scarlet. He's a hero that basically gained a super-powered space belt, which allows him to be incredibly powerful within his own universe, which is a part of a series known as the Hero Pack. So I'll do a basic sketch-up of what his design is. So here you'll be seeing me put him into a couple of different poses so I can have a few frames set up for a comic that I'll be designing with this character. His main abilities include lasers, let's see, what else? Lasers, flight, and enhanced strength and speed. Though they're pretty basic abilities, they're also incredibly powerful, as this was basically designed to create guardians and protectors of the planets for those who wield them. But that's additional lore that you don't really need to know right now. Let me start off with designing this frame here. So here I'm going to add his symbol. So far I'm doing a scene that after battling an invasion to take over his home city, we end up with him plummeting to Earth after this sky battle. I had many questions, but Warren burned through all the others. Where did... Darn, it's so weird. I've been meaning to do these with multiple people. In fact, later on, by some of the later episodes, you're going to see some animated characters I'll be designing along with it, as well as featuring more guests. Because with me, I think it works better when I have someone that I can work off with, and it's not like I'm going to notice that. Because unless you guys are willing to... More girls, let's face it. I'm not going to be gender uninclusive, I term. Basically, it's going to be difficult for me to try and have a live draw, live chat, and manage both with my viewers without someone else here to help out. Because then I'll be spending the entire time checking the chat instead of actually, drawing. Then it won't be live drawing time. It'll be live chatting time. Let's see. So far we have our character. Oh, I need to make his hair. So yeah, the hair was actually a pretty interesting turn with this character. When I originally designed him, he was this little stick figure since I was like 5 at the time. So he looked like this. So, believe it or not, I actually kept that hair on later incarnations of him, even though I began to make other parts more realistic or more like a cartoon instead of just a stick figure. But it wasn't until relatively recently that I actually decided to fully go all in with redesigning him, and he ended up with this hairstyle, which I will admit I kind of what I do is the type of main character that people normally see. I thought about the fact that whenever I see a kids show, there's one archetype of main character that kind of annoys me. It's the ones that are incredibly sure of themselves. They have this whole confident attitude that I've seen repeated so many times. Not that it's a bad character, it's just been done so many times that people don't seem to explore the important sides of that. Especially if you don't know someone like this in real life. They paint them as this character who's supposed to be the main protagonist, the role model. But it's good to really think about what that character's personality and flaws are. Because most of the time these characters are very ignorant to their own flaws. And that's actually what most of this character's story arc is. Being able to recognize and work on his own personal flaws. The ones that he can change, the ones that he can't, the ones he has to accept, and how far before his flaws make him who he is, or are they simply something that he can change? He's a very bright, wide-eyed hero-type character in a world that doesn't exactly line up with how he sees himself and how he sees heroes. Yeah, I put those knees way too low. So here we are. We have our first panel. Well, this is the main pose for the first panel, so I'd say we're almost done with the line art here. Now, one thing that I've been debating is whether I'm going to make the symbol a circle or a square. It's always been just a strange thing I've been curious about. Because originally it was more of a circular shape. But I think I'm going to settle with a rounded rectangle. That way it can go either way. So I just have to remove some of the corners. Make it look almost like a 5, ironically. Yes, it's Big Hero 5. Forget Big Hero 6. It's Big Hero 5. Dun, 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 dun. Man, I cannot wait until I actually have someone here with me so I'm not doing this on my own. Because I did have a guest, but they kind of canceled. Or, well, I haven't heard from them. So now we're able to add in the lines here to show the motion of the wind around this character. And now I just have to streak across the sky. Alright, so now that's our first page. I'm going to start a new one. And this one, I'm going to need to get them in this whole city skyline following. So first I have to get the basic shape here. Trace right there. This shape right here is just basic body pose. So it looks kind of like almost diagonal bullet. Alright, so let's see. Next up, I'm going to need to have him falling downward. And then I'm going to need to put that city skyline behind him. Or I could do that in the next frame, actually. That could work. Because believe it or not, I'm not just making one drawing right here. Since I'm doing panels, I'm going to need to assemble these panels together. So we have the action lines. Okay, so next up, I'm going to include some level of cloud here. So yeah, we have the clouds, and we have the character falling through them. So let's see, we have this character is basically going to be falling through these clouds. Area right here. I think this works because I'm trying to keep the character as a silhouette for this next part. And then I will have the city skyline next. Because I just need to make sure that things remain separate so I can animate them. Let's see, where was the... There it is. Now I can go back and color this. Think about it. Because if I kept them in... Actually, never mind. I think that could work. Alright, so now I just have to do the finalized lines. Actually, I should probably make this opacity a bit lower. Let's use the technical pen. Same thought, let's go with the pencil again. Too thin. One thing I like to do is use thick lines whenever I'm drawing something. The issue is I have to make sure that they're a level of thick where it's not distracting to the image. also thick enough that if you need lines. Yeah, I have an idea. Let's see if I can lock my orientation. Alright, come on, please. Please, do the... Okay, that's it. I'm just gonna go in here. I'm gonna force the entire thing into... So now you're just gonna watch me make it sideways. Okay, so now I can finally add on these finalized lines. And yes, I'm literally eyelining right now. That's what I call it when someone is designing the lines of an eye. If it goes small enough, then I can just go in here. Use some predictive stroke real quick. Helps me out when I'm tracing my own sketches. Yeah, normally whenever I'm drawing, people will end up... Oh, actually, whenever I show people like finished work that I've done, the first reaction is normally like, wow, my drawing is awful. And I find that so strange that, well, granted, I find that so strange that that's just a thing that most artists have in common. With me, I honestly think that it would be impossible for me to do realism, which is also why I'm going to try and spend as much time as I can outside of this stream practicing it. Because I figured that the difference, well, the main difference between artists that you've heard of and artists that you haven't is the ones who stick with it. And this is true of most things, actually. I think mine is pretty awful, but that's because I measure mines a different way that other people measure it. With me, I measure my art by how well I'm able to get whatever I'm imagining onto the page. More often than not, I'm not able to capture all of the detail that my own mind would create. So instead, I decided to focus on kind of finding a balance between both, to try and be satisfied with what I create, but also try to figure out ways to improve how I'm able to design what I'm making. Like with this character, they have been through a lot of different designs, so many. Some with subtle differences, some with drastic ones. Actually, at some point, this mask that he's wearing actually used to be. When it comes to characters like this, they would normally take. He definitely takes a certain pride of being a hero. So as you can see, it's smoothing out my lines. They're still my lines. It's just this way it's able to match up more with what I'm trying to trace. Because another thing that this next question I always end up with is, what did you draw or make something on? Because I've done animation, I've done video game design, I'd say the only time where what you used is really the biggest factor is when it comes to either video editing or video game design. Video game design, in most things, you really have to know the program or platform that you're using. Like, for example, I just learned how to use the YouTube Live, and it clearly shows. When it comes to other things such as, let's see, when it comes to video editing, if you know iMovie really well, you can do amazing work on it. If you don't, it'll look like you half-baked a project. In fact, I had a bunch of fun previous school year, designing these characters. Now, on top of that, when it came to video editing, I was able to take journalism. That was fun, sort of. Granted, I got to have a lot of time playing around with iMovie on a Mac, although I will admit a lot of the class was kind of annoying and tedious at the beginning. Although I did take a certain pride in being able to publish content that actually had a good flow to it. I even designed a custom soundtrack for it on GarageBand, as well as making sure that each of the segments were organized in a certain way. This sped up our production of the videos, and I got a surprisingly good grade on it. I did not expect to do that well, considering the fact that the teacher who was running the class was incredibly by the books. Let's see. Sometimes I just don't draw fingers. It's a thing that I normally debate whenever I'm doing an image. Because sometimes, if I don't draw the fingers right, they're very distracting. I'd say the best way to start with drawing hands is to normally start with drawing a glove shape. As frustrating as I find drawing hands sometimes, I think that's the best way to do it. Once you have the glove shape, you're able to think of the positioning of the fingers. I tried to do hands with skeletons when I was younger. It did not turn out too well because if you actually know anatomy well enough, you know that there are hundreds of bones in your hands. Like, there's so many that they don't even really have. Most doctors wouldn't be able to list them with each of their proper names because that's how many there are. They have to kind of just say, it's one of these. We don't actually have, like, incredibly distinct names for them unless you want to go and find the book that has all of the names of them. We're just going to say that it's one of these bones. So let's see. How did that turn out? It's okay. I kind of want to fix that, though. I'm going to make sure that this hand is a good, presentable hand. Ha! I can just do this, and then the pinky. And let's take my own hand, for example. This would go right here. Ah, that's why. I have to round out this spot, because this is a part of the palm. When we zoom out, that should look way better. There it is. Although it does bring light to how poorly I did this hand over here. gonna be honest, I'm relatively antisocial, so I always kind of get the feeling that no one's really gonna appreciate what I'm working on until I have a final product. I'm hoping the internet's gonna prove me wrong in this circumstance. You know, by seeing all these pieces come together, I can actually have people who take interest, being able to watch and follow along with it. Because eventually this will become an issue of either webcomic on either Webtoons, or I just might create an app of my own, since I also do app design. In fact, I have a website where I've put my live speed draw. Well, technically, it was a live draw that I then turned into a speed draw. I recommend the speed draw because a live draw is, oh, so long. Because, I'm going to be honest with you, I am not a fast drawer or artist. I don't know what I should say in this case. I'm a fast drawer. Actually, now I sound like I'm 12. You know what? I sound like I'm 6. I'm a fast drawer, Mommy. I'm a fast drawer. Yes, you are. You were able to design the entire Michelangelo series in 5 minutes. Uh-huh. So let's see. I feel like I should thicken out the lines a bit. Actually, let me try something. No, they're good. Before I color things, what I do is I actually end up duplicating the layer. Because I duplicate the layer, it actually puts one set are the almost grayish lines that you see now, and they turn to a much darker, bolder black as soon as I duplicate it, since they're layered on top of each other. So any sort of natural fading that this program adds in to give it a more realistic pencil effect, that kind of goes away a bit. Even though it's a bit of a sacrifice, it's one I'm willing to make because it allows me to color in my images without having to use them like a coloring page. I'm just able to either paint bucket or just color behind it. I didn't like how I draw this symbol. I'm going to do this with a different line width. So what I'd like to do is eventually start off with some sort of background music. There we go. Let's see. Because I like to hear myself talk. Who else likes that? No, I'm kidding. I just find it weird when there's just this empty silence. Because it's like I'm entertaining you guys, you know? By clicking on this video, you're entrusting me to entertain you for as long as this video goes on, or until someone comes in and interrupts you saying, "Are you watching YouTube again? Are you watching YouTube again?" Yeah. What are you supposed to be doing? I don't know. Get off YouTube. Why? It's gonna rot your brain. What? Yeah. So you're doing this, you're trusting me to entertain you. And honestly, I will say it, I'm willing to bet this is probably boring half of you. This is a very slow, painstaking process of me going through and drawing a character that I've spent redesigning for since I was 5. I'm just going to go since I was 5, since it's going to take a while. I'm going to go through the whole timeline. So when it comes to characters like this, there's a lot of lore that is behind them. You spend a lot of time developing them. There we go. Are you at? Yeah, you're 100% opacity. That's weird. It's probably because of the opacity of the pen. I don't normally use the pencil tool. I normally use the technical pen. Let's see. This character is a male, and he is wearing a suit that has some, I want to make it resemble jeans a bit, so it has a bit of seams. Ooh, okay, don't need it going in like that. Although it is good for it to go like this. Okay, I think I'm using too many lines. I just have to go simple and bold with my line choices. Maybe I can use a ruler here. Yes, they have digital rulers. So the app I'm actually using is called Autodesk Sketchbook. Very useful. It's been my go-to drawing app for years now. And if you use this app known as DriveSync, oh, sorry, if you have an Android. If you don't, I'm sorry, I can't give you any technical advice. Can't give you technical advice if you have an iPhone. I can just say, do you want my advice? Trade in for an Android. Actually, I'm even going to be using a different character to do other things on this channel, where basically they're going to be going through and giving tech demos for people who want to learn how to customize their Android stuff. Because I have a lot of people who ask me, or like tell me how awesome it is that I have entirely customized my Android screens. Okay, is it just me? I feel like the legs are kind of lifeless. I want to like, I need to like get rid of some of this. Put some life back into these. Okay, there we go. And now, we can color this. I wonder what would have to use a marker that could definitely be useful. Let's see. Just have to marker in the space between these lines. I'm going to fade out this marker later. But first, I just need it so that I can do this. And skin tone. How's this? A bit too light. This. Closer. Nope. Yeah, that's about right. Also, word of advice when doing this technique, never use pure black to color something in. Use what I call faux black. It's where you basically design a type of black that is a little bit grayer than actual black, and you use that for black. The average human will not notice, and although if you use pure black, it actually messages sometimes, because the usage of it actually makes it so that the way that screens function is they will have, there you go. Screens, what they actually do is they end up using literal no pixels or blank space for the color black. Because they do this, it's why power saving mode stuff normally uses dark grays and blacks for your screen. It's because the more of those pixels are pure black or off. So if this, let's see, his suit has like a gold color to it at this point. One thing I like to do is add the symbolism of putting him in the equivalent of superhero PJs, because I feel that very much symbolizes him as a character, since he is this fantasy level dreamer. And putting him in PJs is very suitable. There we go. Now it's time for the hair. Again, can't do full black, so I just have to do a faux black. Let's try this. It's very, very dark brown. Huh. That is weird. I don't see any openings in the hair that would... Oh! There you are. I have to make this big, make it very ineffective, and... go the inverse way. And... there we are. Now he's basically a ghost. This is a blue to go into Christmas Carol territory. There we go. I still need to design a theme song for this. Nope. That's so weird. I literally have one person watching me, and now it is impossible for me to tell who that person is. You realize you spent like the last 45 minutes watching the person draw his character, right? Because one thing I do not expect is to have a lot of views off the bat. There we go. And now I do my final step, shading. Typical shading is I just turn the opacity for everything down. And then I use the airbrush. So, basically like that. Let's turn down this flow a little bit. Well, I think there's some color sprucing up I need to do. Wait a second. The red off carp is something that I really don't like. I think the red overtook the lines. Let me get rid of these lines real quick. Yep, it did that annoying thing. Okay, I guess we're recoloring. Work. Oh my, I need to fix that. Alright, so anyway. There we are, duplicate. get that red back. And finally, the most difficult color to capture is always the skin tone. Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that little thing in the hair. Fixed. Slight trim here. There we go. And for that symbol. There we go. Now I can get this, and I can get rid of this. Now we can go back to shading. So first of all, the light is coming from above, so I need to keep that in mind when I'm doing the shading. My light source is basically in this direction. It means that there's going to be a ton of light waves going like this. So scientifically, that would mean that anything that these light waves touch, so that means there's going to be dark spaces here, in this area, around here. This is all of the darkness, everything that the light that this side blocks. So if we go back into the shading, course, things that end up really close together can sometimes cast shadows on each other, as the fold between them is a place where light can't get in. Of course, just going to put it over here. Some shading on this end. That's over here. And there we go, that's a frame. Actually, you know what we could do? These are just loading real quick. If I take this, delete, delete, and then I use the linear fill, yeah, there's a reason that I draw these separately. You know, I'm just trying to remember if it would be a better idea to start out with white. Then I return to white, because that would make a lot more sense. There we go. With me, I'm not very big when it comes to background and settings. Never really happen. I like to keep most of my images very character focused. So that actually is very reflective in my work as well. So what I'll be doing here is to show that this character is in the sky. I'll be putting them into this sort of look. So let's, and then these two over here. So to pull this last one, because you need to think about them kind of like pages. Are they connected pages? Yes. Because ideally, these are at their full size. Scrolling would go. Alright, let me just add a invisible layer, so I don't need to worry about drawing on this. If I go into my preferences, I can make sure that the canvas does not rotate. So I can get the more practical experience of how scrolling would look like in this. So if you were to scroll through this like a web page, you'd start here. So now what I can do is I can include images. Alright, so let's see. I need to go down really quickly. Come on, go. And I need to go into here. And what I'll do is I will grab the drawing I made earlier on, and it's probably all the way in the middle of the screen. Ah, carp. That's going to be annoying. I've got to do something with this image. I have to go back to save this current one. See, one thing I can't wait for, as I've already mentioned before, is having someone else to talk to here. But I feel these are going to deteriorate into being rather boring unless I have that. Now I just need to wait for this thing to save this incredibly immense image. Like, this thing is huge. Will it save? Will it not save? Find out on the next Random Draw Time. Oh, it's saved. Now it's your turn. So what I need to do is I need to make the background visible and get rid of these additional lines. Now I can save this. And then I can go back to this one. Open it up again, and then I can include that image that you saw before. And then I can probably start putting it. And just like I said before, I'd be fading this stuff out. Just gotta fade it. It's too clear line. I have to turn down the amount erased. Make it larger. I do the reverse of the clear eraser, then I have this, the airbrush. Yeah, I could use some there. There we go. Now if we take the other image that we're working on, we basically fit them together. So yeah, what I'm going to do is, yeah, that's not a good idea. What else? How about this? What I have to do is delete anything that is not this character. This is the background different color so I can actually see the clouds. Gonna need a bit of a bigger eraser for this. Oh, too big. Maybe a... there we are. Okay, maybe a slightly smaller eraser. There we go. Now, huge. Just destroy all the clouds. Destroying all clouds. Manga. Ooh. And that, kids, is how you crash an app. That game says auto-saving. I'd be yelling, no, no, no! Just to make this smaller. There we go. Now I can turn this back on. And here we go. So what I'm going to do is basically going to trace out a silhouette of this character. Start with the basic shapes. Basic shapes are one of the most important things you can figure out and learn to do as an artist. Doing basic shapes grants you the ability to design your own characters, and then eventually, you don't have your basic shapes down, you're not going anywhere. Did I draw in the wrong spot or something? Of course, probably going to do... Are you? Yep. There we go. Yes, I randomly scat. Are these real songs? No. Maybe I could design a theme song for these characters out of that. The one person who's been watching this for almost 2 hours. I commend you, although I have to tell you, there's not some sort of reward at the end of this video. This is literally it. I apologize. You asleep or something? Or just registering that I myself am watching the video. Oh yeah, that's actually when I check on my live stream. It's also I know it's showing up there, and also interact with the live chat. I just set it up on a separate device. I feel like that's relatively normal. I'm thinking of Lemony Snicket from Series of Important Events. Sorry to say. But there's nothing at the end of this video. Simply an ending of a drawing. Final product. If you're looking for something greater, you'll have to look elsewhere. I apologize. That this story can't have a happier ending. Oh. No. Not. Delete that. There we go. So here we are. A little silhouette of the character. Let's try shrinking that pencil to match. Seriously, who's still watching this? I am so confused. There's been one person watching this the entire time, and I am fascinated as to what person found this in the first place before I started streaming, and even wanted to watch it. For me to even know who this person is, unless they comment or like do some sort of reaction. Now I know that I can just move this little thing up here. Now all I have to do in image viewer. You know what I can do? Now that one file's uploading. Take a look. Okay, I like the aesthetic of it, so it's just streak across the sky, right? yeah, peace out and enjoy. I'll be back with another random draw time. Except next time, I promise, it's going to be a lot more fun. This one was kind of dry.